My plan is about saying that when you invest in small businesses, you invest in the middle class.
The question was, how are you going to pay for it?
That obviously was a complete and total disaster. We know now why Kamala Harris is not doing many interviews because, well, now she's starting to do some interviews and she's awful. Even in the friendliest of confines like CBS News and 60 Minutes. We're going to watch this clip a couple of times with each other because it's unfathomable how out of her depth this woman is right now, the woman who wants to be president of the United States. The most important issue facing America right now is our broken economy under Joe Biden. Bidenomics, the thing that Kamala Harris embraced right up until about a minute and a half ago when she realized she had to come up with some sort of different plan if she was going to get any votes. And when she was pushed just on the simplest of questions on how she can fix the economy, watch how she melts down.
And nurses.
Okay. Now, that obviously was a complete and total disaster, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous and awful, not just on the logic or lack thereof behind her so-called economic plan, but her performance, her lack of command of basic facts and understanding what she stands for and how she completely falls apart when pressed on those issues. Let's watch this again. We're going to do it twice here, once just regular, and then we've got something special for you. But I want to break apart some of the lack of basic fundamental economic understanding here in her plan, but also in real politics here in the United States of America. Listen up.
The plan is about saying that when you invest in small businesses.
This is something that she does a lot. When she knows she's got a friendly who's asking questions, she'll say something and she nods like this. It's one of these things like, you agree with me, right? You're on my side. So I'm just going to say something and I nod. It means that you're on my side. It's a little tick that she has. But understand what she just said. Invest in small businesses. And they say this all the time, but they never actually end up doing it. Small businesses and the middle income or middle income Americans, Democrats are constantly saying that that's the backbone of our economy. That's the middle class and small businesses. That's what we're going to, and yet every 4 years, that's all they promise, even when they win. And understand, Democrats have been in charge of the White House and submitting economic policy and budgets for 12 of the last 16 years. All right. And they always say the same thing. They're constantly running on the same platform, which is we got to strengthen small businesses in the middle class because that's the backbone of the economy. But what the hell have you been doing? It's clearly you haven't strengthened them, right? But when she says invest in small businesses, what that means is government spending. It means the government is going to spend money. It's not an investment. They're going to give handouts to people that they think are going to give them votes, right? And so the fundamental question is, right now we've got inflation. It's killing businesses. It's killing families. It's killing your spending power every single day. And inflation happens when the federal government spends more money than they've got, because that weakens the spending power of the dollars that are sitting in your pocket right now, because the federal government just prints more money to keep spending money they don't have. And the more money that's out there means the money that's sitting in your pocket right now is devalued, right? So what a dollar could buy 4 years ago can only buy 70 cents worth, right? It's because they printed so much money. And her solution, keep printing money. Keep spending money we don't have. Okay, so watch her fall apart here.
You invest in the middle class.
Invest.
And you strengthen America's economy. Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
And I want to just point out here, because you hear her say it all the time on the campaign trail. I was a prosecutor. I was a prosecutor. I was a prosecutor. She was a DA for 8 years in the San Francisco jurisdiction. Then she was the attorney general for 2 terms, right? And then she became a U.S. senator for not even 1 full term. And then she became vice president. She has never had to make a payroll. She has never run a business. She has never actually had to do anything. If she were mayor, she would have more experience with the economy. If she was a county supervisor or city councilman, she would have more. She was a DA, she was an attorney general, and then she was the senator. She's literally never had to make any decisions that in any way affect an economy. of any scale, let alone the largest economy on the planet. It was only until she became vice president that she theoretically had any say or exposure to how to run an economy. And by the way, she's trashed that economy while she had that job. So now she's talking like an expert. You know, small businesses and the middle class are the backbone of our economy. You know how she knows that? Because she's heard other politicians say it from her party for the last 30 years of her life, because we all have. It's like one of the stupidest rhetorical devices that's used at any point whatsoever. You want to help small businesses? Get rid of regulation. You want to help small businesses? Get rid of mandates like minimum wages. You want to help small businesses? Lower taxes on businesses. You want to help small businesses? Get out of their way and let them thrive. That's how you help small businesses. But her plan is to invest, which means spending money we don't have. So, and so this guy points that out. This guy now, the slightest pushback, and she has no answers because all she knows is what she memorized.
Pardon me, Madam Vice President. The question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes. It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. I plan on.
All right. So once again, all she's doing is repeating what we've heard from that. This is exactly what Barack Obama said in 2008. This is exactly what Bernie Sanders said when he was running in 2016. It's exactly what Hillary Clinton started saying in 2016 because she was trying to steal Bernie Sanders voters and ideas for that matter. This is exactly what she was saying 4 years ago. And by the way, exactly what Joe Biden was saying during the Obama presidency of 2008 through 2016. And then when he ran for president 4 years ago, this is standard Democrat talking points that has not changed for 30, 40, 50 years. The rich have to pay their fair share. How are you going to pay for it? The rich will pay their fair share. How are you going to pay for it? The rich are going to pay their fair share. We're going to invest in this, 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 and this. Well, you don't have money for that. How are you going to pay for it? The rich will pay their fair share. And that's never what ends up happening. The taxes go up on the middle class. The taxes go up on the upper middle class. The taxes go up on all of us. Fees go up on all of us. Cost of living increases because inflation goes up, which is a hidden tax on all of us. And guess what? The rich keep getting richer. It's amazing how that happens. You know why? Because they're lying about making the rich pay their fair share. And then that class warfare crap that firefighters and teachers are paying higher income tax rates. Well, they're paying higher income tax rates because rich people don't pay income tax. They pay capital gains tax because rich people don't actually make W-2 wages like you and I do. They make money off of their investments. So now, if you don't like that, that's fine. But you're comparing apples to oranges, literally comparing apples to oranges. And by the way, fair share, the rich, so-called rich, actually end up paying something like the richest 5% in this country pay something like 90% of what goes into the treasury. I'm doing it off the top of my head, but this whole it's a lie. All of this is a lie. All of this is class warfare that's meant to divide us as a nation, and it's always smoke and mirrors. It's never how they don't end up paying it for their investments and their big government spending by having the rich pay their fair share, because the rich are writing the tax codes and they always have loopholes for themselves. So it always ends up being a burden on the middle class or the upper middle class. They just keep changing the rates, the dividing lines. All right. So and then this guy points out, so Barack Obama couldn't even get this enacted when he had a supermajority. How are you going to get this with a Congress that has a Republican majority?
On making that fair.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes.
How are you going to get this through Congress?
You know, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
All right. So we're going to watch this one more time. I won't interrupt as much because you've already heard my response. You've already heard twice now her meltdown and inability. What I want you to do now, you see her eyes. It's a funny thing about Kamala Harris after watching her so much over the last 3 months. The truth is in her lie. The truth of her lies lies in her eyes. I literally just made that up. Can we get t-shirts made, Kevin? I think this could be a t-shirt. We could sell this, maybe a coffee mug. The truth in her lies lies in her eyes. Look at her eyes. Look at her eyes right now. She has trouble making, she's constantly, her eyes are darting. She's looking down a lot. She looks down a lot during interviews. But in this case, when she's pushed back on by this reporter, And she has to come up with a quick answer. I want you to watch her eyes each time it happens. Look what we're going to do here. Oh, ho, ho, ho. That's a beautiful thing. All right. Now let's watch this one more time and we'll keep a look at her eyes.
Plan is about saying that when you invest in small businesses, you invest in the middle class and you strengthen America's economy. Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
But pardon me, Madam Vice President, the question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest.
Did you see that? Did you see that nightmare of a show that she just put on with her eyes? Like one challenging question. I'm sorry. The question is, how are you going to pay for it? I mean, like a malfunction. Like she's Data on Star Trek: The Next Generation, having to access a database. Oh God, I'm sure. I know we went over this at one point. Rich pay their fair share. That's it. Rich pay their fair share.
Among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes. It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. And I plan on making that fair.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes.
How are you going to get this through Congress?
You know, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress.
He did it again. I mean, each time. Isn't that remarkable? Each time. One little pushback that takes her off her talking point that she memorized for an hour and a half before she sat down for this 20-minute interview. Suddenly she has to come up with something on the fly, and it's, oh, can you, I mean, seriously, she's going to deal with Putin. She's going to deal with She's going to deal with terrorists. She's going to deal with Iran. She's going to deal even with friendly countries. She's going to deal with terrorist nations like Canada. That's right, I said it. Speaking of terrorism, she was asked a couple of questions about Israel, this on the one-year anniversary of the October 7th attacks, and her answers, I mean, beyond what a complete and total shit show that was on the economy. When it comes to October 7th, when it comes to foreign relations, when it comes to our relationship with Israel and the existential threat that Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran pose to our allies as well as our own nation, this is terrifying, what she did.
Work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done, which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire. And we're not going to stop in terms of putting that pressure on.
Okay, so she just listed America's priorities when it comes to the engagement right now of Israel defending herself and reacting to the Hamas terror attacks and going after Hezbollah. And, by the way, responding to Iran's barrage of 200 ballistic missiles last week. And what is America's priorities? Humanitarian aid, ceasefire, end of hostilities, release hostages. Nowhere in there was an end to bloody terrorist attacks. Nowhere in there was justice for the 1,000+ people who were murdered, not to mention those who were sexually assaulted and continue to be tortured right now. Nowhere in there was justice, retribution, Hamas paying for what they did, an end to Hamas complete. Like, why is it not a priority for America in that region right now for Hamas and Hezbollah to be decapitated and ended as we know it? Right? I mean, when we went into Afghanistan, we said, we're ending Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda will no longer be in business. And no one was out there saying, well, hold on a minute now. Right? When Trump finally won the presidential election and said, yeah, you know what? I ran on ending ISIS as we know it across the entire Levant there, where they're thriving in Iraq and in Syria. So we're going to roll in there and we're going to end ISIS. And other countries weren't like, well, you know, that's not really a priority. We need to have a ceasefire and end humanitarian suffering. And no, that's how you deal with terrorists. But nowhere does Kamala Harris articulate America's priority as including ending these terrorist organizations who continue to hold Americans right now, a year later. But apparently with Kamala Harris in charge, that's not a priority. Now, there's more to this that actually is this next question and answer should terrify you. If you have any concern about foreign affairs, foreign policy, national security, and keeping America and her allies safe, in a world where terrorism continues to thrive. You watch this question and answer, and you tell me who you're going to vote for.
On Israel and in the region, including Arab leaders.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
Wow, we're going to watch that one together one more time, because that is, again, to call it word salad is not fair to lettuce and vegetables when tossed with olive oil and a nice balsamic vinegar. At least gives us some level of nutritional value, if not, at least maybe some fiber and roughage to clean out our colon, because there's nothing about that that's going to clean out anybody's colon. In fact, quite the opposite. This is not word salad. This is dangerous, imbecilic meandering of a person who does not know what the hell she's talking about in something, not very important, just our current stance in the Middle East with Israel and the terrorists who want to slaughter all of the people in that nation, including Americans. So the question was, it appears as though Benjamin Netanyahu is not listening to you. And here's her explanation of America's role over the past year in that region. Let's listen carefully.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
Anybody know what she just said? Anybody? Anyone out there? Let us know in the chat what you think that meant. That was terrifying. That was terrifying that this woman wants to be in charge of our foreign policy at the times that we're living in right now. You know that we have American troops right now literally under fire in the Gulf, right? Our ships right now are being fired upon. They're facing danger. They are intervening right now. They're helping Israel shoot down missiles coming in barrages from Iran. They're getting stalked by drones. They're shooting down drones as well. She wants to be the commander in chief. And this is what she is passing off. She and her party are passing off right now as an intelligent, reasoned response to America's influence with Israel in their waging of this war of defense against Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
She's been cosplaying as a pretend president over the course of the last 3 months, doing photo ops, sitting at the head of the table at FEMA or in the Situation Room, standing at a podium and giving remarks, doing all the things that Biden is incapable of doing. She's cosplaying as a pretend president, and she can't even do that well. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was better at this than she is. I don't want to say it's beyond parody, because that suggests it's funny, and there's nothing funny about this. This is deadly serious. And I don't know about you, as a father of someone in the military, I'm terrified right now to think that this is what they've done. This is what they're offering us. And by the way, if you care about our relationship with Israel, the only actual ally that we have in that area, the only true functioning democracy for 70 years now in that region, the only natural ally that we have that shares some level of cultural understandings with our nation, where we actually can speak the same language literally and share common values and common principles with our shared Judeo-Christian aesthetic. You care about that nation and its vital role in our ability to bring peace to the area and around the world. Listen to this.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
Boy, I'd love to unpack that a little bit, because obviously this is meant as shade and some sort of backhand to Benjamin Netanyahu, which she has no business doing. She's the vice president of the United States. She speaks officially when she says stuff like that, and that's disgusting and that's despicable. She, of course, snubbed Netanyahu when he came here to give a joint address to the joint session of Congress. She was too busy, doing some sex-related podcast somewhere. I'm kidding. That's what she was too busy doing to go to North Carolina for hurricane relief. It was insulting. It was embarrassing. It was disgusting. But then if you actually unpack what she had to say, she said, well, the question is, do we have an alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that is yes. So is she saying that the American government and the Israeli government are irrelevant here? If the American government and the Israeli government can't get along, that doesn't matter, because as long as the people like each other, that's all that matters? What does that even mean? It's beyond naive. It's moronic. She's a moron. I'm sorry. She is a functioning moron when she talks like that. Barely functioning. And the idea that Benjamin Netanyahu, who is defending his nation, defending his citizens from an existential threat from 3 fronts now, from Hamas, from Hezbollah, and now from Iran, launching an unprecedented number of 200 ballistic missiles that they only acquired because Barack Obama and Kamala Harris's party made sure that they got those missiles. The fact that he, a man who has literally bled on the battlefield defending this nation, who lost his brother during the Yom Kippur War and during terrorist attacks in defending this nation relentlessly against the very same enemies they face today. This is not a new fight. They've been fighting it since their existence. The fact that he is supposed to sit there with a straight face and take military advice from her, from that woman? Guys, choose your fighter. If you're still on the fence, I don't know what. If Israel is a priority, if national security is a priority, if foreign policy is a priority, it's not even close. And let's just, one last thing here to wrap this up. When Donald Trump was president, not only was there peace in the Middle East after he rolled through and made sure that ISIS was wiped off the map there, but by the end of his presidency, Arab nations were signing peace agreements with Israel. Nations that years before Donald Trump became president weren't even acknowledging Israel's right to exist. By the time we reached the 4th year of his term, they were signing peace agreements with Israel and normalizing their relations. We were told by the likes of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Barack Obama that if Donald Trump made good on his campaign promise to move the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, that would inflame hatred against Israel and that it would bring on a whole new wave of terrorist attacks. So when Donald Trump did exactly what every president prior to him had promised to do and then never followed through on it, when he did move that embassy to Jerusalem, not only did we not see any rise in terrorist activity, we saw quite the opposite, because President Trump was making a symbolic message, sending a symbolic message to the entire region, saying, enough of this equivocation, enough of this both sidesing. Israel is our ally. We are on their side. We are firmly on their side, and we're moving our embassy to Jerusalem to prove to all of you that if you want to be friends with us, and I'm pretty sure you want to be friends with us, then you will make friends with Israel. And damn it if that's not what happened. And if this matters to you, then your decision 4 weeks from tomorrow just got a lot simpler.